Okay, in this movie I want to talk about letter name alphabetic sorts and within word pattern sorts, but I also want to talk to you about the type of sorts that you do. Closed sorts and open sorts. Open sorts are really what you strongly would be using within word patterns. So let's go back to letter name alphabetic sorts because that's what you would use closed sorts with. Closed sorts are used by teachers, and typically I'm pushing this down so that you can only see the top level cards. That the teacher selects those top level cards, rack, tag, true, and the oddball pattern for being able to set out the category. So in other words, the categories are predetermined by the teacher. And afterwards, the children are sorting into these patterns over here. Okay, that sorting then is done on the basis of the child's understanding, being able to detect the pattern in the criterion card up above. Okay, next, here again we have a closed sort. The teacher has given the top three criterion cards, chop, shin, and whip. And the children sort down then according to the consonant digraphs that fill out these different patterns. So closed sorts are prescriptive. They're done by the teacher. They tell the children which patterns to sort in, and the children consistently sort into those areas. We've talked before about the 4 different questions that teachers ask at the conclusion of that sort. All right, now we're looking at within word patterns, and these are our influence vowels. Our influence vowels are many different patterns, and as you should notice throughout the within word sorting, within word sorts, the focus there is principally on the patterns, and so you have a larger number of patterns than you will have words that are in the each separate column. Okay, let's test that out. Okay, well, you have a type 1 and a type 2 sort. So let's go to the type 1 open sort, and it starts with 2 students. They choose their own categories. The teacher doesn't choose for them. So the first child goes and selects one word, and that student is going to control that column and find all the different examples that fit in there. Second student chooses theirs. Notice that it's alternating. They go back and forth. Okay, so the first student goes again, and that's followed by the second student, and it goes on and on here, alternating in turns until this plays out. You can see we have a very simple sort here. The alternating goes on until there are no longer any choices. When that happens, then they have to make up new categories from the leftover words. So we've gone back and forth over here, and we're nearly out of words for each of these. Okay, we're getting down to the very end. Each student just selects the word and drops them into place. Okay, let's skip doing these two because it slides down below the level of our screen. All right, that's a typical open sort. Now you can move into a type 2 open sort, and you'll see that that's a very much more interesting way of doing it. Okay, we're going to use the previous patterns that were already done. A type 2 open sort works like this. You have 2 students, and the first student creates the patterns in the columns. The first student doesn't tell the other student why these words were sorted into these places. So the first person does the sorting. The second person has to explain why these words were put in this pattern. So let's just take a shot at that. The second student will say, this column is organized by all words. The thing they have in common is OW making an ow sound, like brown, drown, and growl. They all have the ow sound. With that, using this two-letter construction of OW. And the best example of it is cow over here, very simply. And this one over here is using a diphthong OI, and that appears in every single word in this pattern. Okay, so then the first student has to say whether that's right or wrong. All right, the next step in a type 2 sort is that they start to make subcategories. And let me just show you how that might work in this case. I've got the OI words in this column, but let's say I want to make a subcategory of OIN words. And this student is going to actually come out with OIL words. All right, so now the sorting starts all over again, alternating in turns until each of the patterns are filled. Okay, so this student is out of that one, and so he can start taking a new column and start to make a new pattern. This is the OWL pattern. Meanwhile, I would be finishing up with the OIL pattern. All right, so the students go back and forth, and they start new patterns, which are subcategories. This one actually belongs right where it is, and this one ends over here. This one goes up here. Okay, and this one we haven't used before, but we can put it in that column to start with, and this one belongs over here. So let's finish up with what we started here. We got 2 words for soil, and then we have to decide whether or not we want to make another subcategory over here. So the 2 students working in competition with each other try to create as many new subcategories. So we can say now, when we go back and look at these subcategories, what is the unique feature that is in each of these? Well, this is the OWN, and it's the key emphasis are these vowels OW that make the OW sound. This is the diphthong OI. They make the OI sound is OI, and in this case it ends in CE. Again, here's the diphthong OI, and diphthong OI ending in point. And in this case, we have the OW ending in L, and here's the straight up OW sound ending here. All right, now the game can continue at this point by adding new examples. And just by adding cards over here, these blank cards, you'll see what I mean. So let's just make up a couple of this. Start thinking of words for that one. I think I'll come up with like the bow of a boat. And in this case, something. This is a nasty joint. Okay, having a hard time thinking of all these things on the fly. And I'm going to make a couple more over here. All right, so we got plenty of different ways in which we can let our groupings grow by adding blank cards and fitting them in here. That's how the sorting finishes up for a type 2 open sort. You start off with one person sorting, the other person has to guess the category, then they start breaking those categories into subcategories, and it finishes up by adding new cards to fit the pattern.